ॐ भूर्भुवः स्वः तत्सवितुर्वरेण्यं भर्गो देवस्य धीमहि धियो यो नः प्रचोदयात्। ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः. Namaskar, my dear friends. This is video number 4 on Amrita Bindu Upanishad or Brahma Bindu Upanishad. This video starts with self-deluded karma yogins. The real nature of the Supreme Brahma is very hard for yogins to realize. For those devotees who work in the path of karma with their vision always directed to the external world, they are afraid of the Nirodha Yoga, though it is free from all taint of evil. These followers of Vedic ritual look upon this samadhi, this knowledge of the reality, with great fear as leading to mere self-extinction, thinking that thereby they would lose their Brahmana caste and all. They are unwise, being given to imagining fear of self-extinction where there is really no fear at all. Knowledge of reality is indeed the very means of attaining to fearless state. Like man born blind, these yogins always engrossed as they are in matters external, do not see and realize their own real self. They declare that Amani Bhava or Samadhi is allied to Susupti. The first cause of their fear is Ajnana, which gives rise to many an illusory phenomenon. Next, born of this illusion come the manifold groundless hypotheses, self-deluded Sankhyas. Those yogins, for instance, who follow the Sankhya system of philosophy, hold as follows. It cannot be that one Atma alone exists in all beings without any distinction, nor that he is essentially composed of mere intelligence and bliss. Since in our experience we find happiness and misery differently allotted to different beings, the Atmans Purushas must be different in different bodies. The Prakriti, which is the cause of the Purusha's enjoyment and suffering, is one only. They explain the behavior of Prakriti in moksha in various alternative ways. Number one, though one and common to all Purushas, Prakriti manifests itself in many a form and vanishes altogether in Mukti. 2. Though in bondage, Prakriti is what we find it to be, evolving into many a form from the subtlest to the grossest ones. Yet in Mukti, it retraces back its steps and withdraws or becomes resolved into its own primeval form. Third, the cause of bondage is not Prakriti as such, but Kirti, but Prakriti evolved into Manas. In Mukti, it is Manas which, having achieved all its purposes, changes form by way of being resolved into the form of its cause. Holding one or another of these views as to what happens in Mukti, the yogins of the Sankhya school stoutly opposes the doctrine of the followers of Upanishads as to the Manas becoming one with Atman, on the ground that Manas could be resolved only into Prakriti, its cause. Afraid on these and similar grounds and held captive by avidya, they reject the doctrine of Amani Bhava established beyond doubt by both Shruti and the experience of the sages, and regard it as mere susupti. These yogins regard themselves very wise, though altogether devoid of true wisdom. They practice restraint of breath and do other hard things with a view to realize the true Atman. But as the blind can never see the treasure though held in the palm, never can such men reach the fearless, blissful self through ever present in their own hearts. The doctrine of Yasesikas and Madhyamikas, though self-luminous as the witness of every act of thought and always free from all upadhis, still some philosophers such as Vaisesikas and Madhyamikas hold that Atma is naturally devoid of consciousness. The Vaisesikas hold that Atma has in himself neither consciousness nor bliss, and that he becomes conscious only when in contact with Manas, while the Madhyamikas hold that Atma never possesses them. Both of them are laboring under a delusion and declare that amanasta or freedom from the sway of manas is possible only at the time of moksha or at death, not during life. Higher grade of yogins. The best class of aspirants comprises those who look upon manas, the sense organs, and all the rest as a mere fiction apart from Brahman's being. Just as where a rope is mistaken for a serpent, the serpent is a mere imagination. They are themselves Brahma, and in virtue of the very wisdom which they have acquired, fearlessness, and the endless peace, the manifest, unsurpassed bliss called moksha exists in their very being and does not depend on anything else. These men of wisdom are Jivan Muktas, having already attained to mukti. Hence, no need for them to tread the path any more. Lower grade of yogins. Others again, all those yogins who, doing righteous deeds and thus treading on the right path, have purified their buddhi, but who hold to beliefs removed one or more degrees from the absolute truth are convinced of the independent existence of manas, which is held to be quite distinct from Atma and yet in contact with Atma. To them who have not attained to the conviction that Atma alone is real, fearlessness, that is akshatkara, sakshatkara, or direct perception of Atma, the supreme reality, is unattainable except by the restraint of manas. With reference to this class of aspirants, the Acharya says in 40th stanza, मनसो निग्रह यत में भयम सर्वयोगिनां दुख अक्षय प्रबोधश्च अक्षया शांतिरेव च. Dependent upon the restraint of manas is fearlessness for all yogins, as also extinction of pain and true wisdom, and also endless peace. For him who does not distinguish Atma from non-Atma, extinction of pain can be brought about only by the restraint of manas, for pain must necessarily arise so long as manas, which is always in contact with Atma, is subject to motion. Moreover, that insight also into Atma, which has already been spoken of as fearlessness, depends altogether on the restraint of manas. Similarly, that endless peace, which is called moksha, is dependent on the restraint of manas. Inferior yogins should practice mental restraint. Accordingly, all yogins should resort to the restraining of manas in the manner recommended by those who are versed in the traditional knowledge of the process. We say all yogins advisedly, inasmuch as even the hitherto misguided yogins will ultimately reach the goal if they would but turn away from their former course and begin to work in the right path. He who desires the well-being of his own self, Atma, should first conquer Manas, and the conquest of Manas, though hard to achieve, must be possible because Shastra enjoins it and the sages have borne a testimony to its being effect of their own experience. Strong will and cheerfulness are necessary. The aspirant should practice restraint of manas with a resolute and cheerful heart. This is explained in stanza number 41. Utsek उद्धेर्यद्वत् कुशाग्र कबिन्दुना मनसो निग्रहद्वद् भवेत् परिखेदतः. Like the emptying of the ocean by the tip of Kusha's grass, drop by drop, so has the restraint of manas to be achieved without weariness. Those who exert themselves strenuously, never dissipated in their antahkarana, that is, never chafing thus. When the eye is closed, I see darkness. When I open my eyes, I see objects such as a cloth or a pot. Never am I able to see Brahma, whose first resolution to conquer Manas is perhaps like the resolve to dry up the ocean by pouring out its water drop by drop with the tip of kusha grass, never wearied or despondent, they can achieve the restraint of Manas. The legend of Titibhas. The legend about the attempt to empty the ocean by pouring out its water drop by drop is narrated by tradition as follows. Once upon a time, there lived a couple of Titibhas or the shore of an ocean beaten hard by surfs. The male bird, puffed up with pride, set the ocean at naught and left the newly laid eggs on the shore despite the remonstrations of the wife. He then addressed her thus: "Do not fear, my dear. If the ocean be so proud as to carry off my eggs, then I shall deprive the infatuated fellow of all his water, and you will then see him quite powerless by fear." The wife showed him in many ways what an impossibility it was. What was he when compared with the ocean? The husband, however, left the eggs in the same spot and went with the wife in search of food. When they were gone, the ocean, who had all the while been listening to the conversation with all his pride, carried off the eggs by his big surfs. But remembering the Supreme Lord, the ocean thought thus within himself: "All things, animate and inanimate, are the manifestation manifestations of the Supreme Lord. There is not knowing what may happen to a being, when, by whom, or how his Maya works miracles in the world. I am not sure who he, the Titibha, is, what his abode, who his friends, what his power or his time. I shall therefore keep his eggs safe in a place." Thus thinking, the ocean secured them in a safe place and roared aloud as before. When, with a full belly, the Titibha returned to the place with his wife, the eggs were missing. He was beside himself with anger and resolved to dry up the ocean. Then his well-meaning wife addressed him thus: "What are you, a small creature, born of an egg, compared with the mighty ocean? What do you, why do you wage war against him, against all reason? Alliance or enmity is fitting only among equals. You and the oceans are not equals. Thy body is but 16 inches long, and thy wings not more than a foot wide. Thy legs are like the stem of a mango fruit, and thy beak is like the kusha grass. Thy wings are soft like silken cloth, and no more than 12 inches. So small is thy whole extent, either within or without. Time is ever the same with one born in the brute creation. Time produces change in mankind, in devas and daityas. Friends you have none except myself, a poor and helpless creature. Enemies become friends in consideration of the money to be got in future or of the good reception at the hands of the wealthy. But even that wealth does thou of the feathered creation lack. Thou canst now not fly in the air even to the distance of an arrow's flight. By birth thou art Titibha, the meanest of the oviparous race, whereas the ocean is a million miles long on one side and 2 million miles on the other, and he is as deep as the earth itself. At the time of cosmic parallaya, he floods all the three worlds by his waves as a lake inundates the earth by its outlet. He holds within him quite as many beings as there are on earth, and in him there are precious gems of all sorts. Among his friends may be reckoned powerful devas and munis of great austerity, and he holds for the devas and man an inexhaustible supply of gems. He has given refuge to the mighty mountains such as Manaka when they were afraid of Indra. Thus do thou think all about thyself and the ocean. Do not in vain provoke enmity leading to thy death. Already by thy folly I have lost my children. Do not by thy death add to my misery. When thus harangued at length, his eyes became red and his hair stood on end. With a firm resolve, he addressed his wife, who looked quite miserable, as follows. In times of prosperity, friends are found in millions, but he who is a friend in need is a friend indeed. Whoso forsakes in need is an enemy, even if it be the son or the wife. He is a friend who is a firm adherent in virtue and sin, in happiness and misery. But as an enemy is he to be regarded who trusted as the very self for his wisdom, proudly prattles much in adversity. He who seeks success in life should stay first the enemy who is disguised as a friend and then the declared foe. So, though a friend in appearance, thou speakest like a foe. But I think it is wrong to slay one of the weakest sex, and I abstain therefore from the sin. As the wise say, 7 places make friendship. I have lived long and happily with thee. How shall I now injure thee, a friend and a woman? So do leave this place and go elsewhere. Do not tarry here. Alone by my own might I will dry up the ocean. With my beak and my 2 wings I will pour out his water and ere long reduce him to a shallow pool. Thus saying, he flew into the air and began to work with a view to dry up the ocean. The hen Titibha saw his resolve, and as a dutiful wife begged his pardon and followed suit. Both day and night, without being tired, they worked to dry up the ocean. They dipped their beaks and wings to pour the water out, but the water evaporated so soon as was taken up. They, however, went on doing so for a long time. When other Titibhas began to dissuade them from the attempt, they were merely told to evince their friendship by cooperating with them in the attempt to dry up the ocean or else to go back their way. Thereupon they joined the couple in the act of pouring out the water, and so did the rest of the feathered race of all classes. Then at last Narada, the divine sage, wending on his unimpeded course through the three regions, saw these birds at work and tried in many ways to dissuade them. But they did not desist. Seeing they were firm in their resolve, he advised them to invoke Garuda's help. At the very sight of the fierce Garuda, the ocean trembled with fear and restored the eggs to the titibhas. Thus, untied like the titibhas, should a person work at the subjugation of manas. Once he makes a firm resolve, God will come to his help in the same way that Garuda came to the help of Titibhas. Help invariably comes from all beings in a righteous act. Even the monkeys helped Rama to recover his wife. He can achieve all who possesses the attributes of manliness, self-control, grace, strength, skill and prowess. No man should ever abandon an undertaking, great or small, just as the lion never retraces his steps when once he has begun to march. Bearing all this in mind, he who engages in the subjugation of manas should never turn back even in the face of a deadly foe. Obstacles to samadhi. It should not, however, be supposed that unwearied effort alone can help far in the subjugation of manas. If that were an adequate means of conquering manas, then there would be no necessity for the other ways pointed out by the scriptures. On the other hand, there are various obstacles in the way of the man who practices samadhi with a view to attain to sakshatkara, to an intuitive realization of truth. They are enumerated as follows: laya, mental inactivity; vikshepa, distraction; kashaya, passion; and sufraga, taste for pleasure. So, mana should be restrained from falling into these states by resorting to the ways recommended below. Otherwise, the object of the practice cannot be attained. The neophyte should study the scriptures and then reflect and meditate upon them. By this course, supplemented by his unwearied efforts to restrain manas, he can acquire a knowledge of the true. Sri Gaudapadacharya teaches us what those snares are and how to avoid them or how to escape from them. Viksepa and Laya. This is explained in stanza 42. Upayen nigrihya diviksitam कामभोगयोः सुप्रसन्नं लये चैव यथा कामो लय स्थिता. By skill should one restrain manas when distracted by kama and enjoyment, and even when it is tranquil in laya. As kama is, so is laya. When manas becomes distracted by desires and objects of desire, the neophyte should restrain it by resorting to the course described below and cause it to dwell on Atma. Moreover, he should restrain Manas from getting into Laya or mental activity, which is equivalent to the Susupti state, though it be a state which is marked by the absence of all trouble. Laya or mental inactivity is as much a source of evil as Kama, and therefore it is that Manas should be prevented from lapsing into that condition as much as it should be restrained from Kama. Antidotes to the Vikshepa and Laya. The Acharya points out the means of avoiding or escaping from Vikshepa and Laya. This is explained in stanza number 43. दुःखम स्रव मनुष्य मृत्यः काम भोगानि वर्तयेत अजम सर्व मनुष्य मृत्यः जातम नैव तो पश्यति. Ever thinking that all is pain, he should restrain manas from the enjoyment of kama. Ever thinking that all is unborn, he never sees the born. Stanza number 44. लये संबोधये चित्तं विकसितं समयेत पुनः सक्सायं विजानीयात् संप्राप्तं न चालयेत. In Laya, let him wake up the chitta. When distracted, let him withdraw it again. Let him know it is then saksaya, impassioned. When balanced, let him not disturb it. By always thinking that all duality set up by avidya is only a source of pain, he should withdraw the wandering manas from objects of enjoyment to which it has been led by kama. This is the means known as vairagyam bhavana, practice of dispassion or indifference to worldly pleasures by thinking of their impermanence and evil nature. By always meditating on the instructions of the Shastra and the teacher, which point to the doctrine that the unborn or Brahma is all, that is, by what is called Jnana Bhashya, by a repeated study, reflection, and contemplation of the teaching of the Shastra. He never sees the born, the world of duality, as opposed to Brahma because it does not exist. Thus, thus by the twofold means of Jnana Bhashya and Vairagya Bhavana, let the neophyte wake up manas sunk in laya, in nidra or sushupti. That is, let the manas be engaged in seeing atma as distinguished from non-atma. When distracted by desires and pleasures, let him at once withdraw the mind from them. I complete this video here and continue the topic of hindrances in samadhi in the next video number 5. It will start with akshaya and its antidote. Thank you for watching this video. Please like, comment and share the video and subscribe the channel. Namaskar my dear friends.